Everything changes the moment power becomes personal, and in episode 5, the streets of Chicago feel like a ticking bomb. One choice, one mistake, one act of anger is all it takes to flip the whole city upside down. And when Dmac steps into that moment, nothing and no one is ready for what he's about to do. Chicago is tense from the very first moment of this episode. It feels like every corner is holding its breath, waiting for the next move in a silent war that has been building for weeks. Tommy's crew is stretched thin, dealing with enemies on every side, and everyone can sense that a major shift is coming. The city itself becomes a character, loud, dangerous, unpredictable. Every siren echoes a warning, every shadow feels like a threat, and every conversation carries a hidden message. You can tell that whatever is about to happen is not going to be small. It's going to erupt, and it's going to hit the people closest to Tommy harder than anyone expects. Dmac walks through all of this with a fire in his chest that he tries to hide, but can't. He has been carrying frustration for a long time. And in this episode, it finally starts to spill over. He wants respect. He wants a place at the table. He wants to prove he's more than just someone being watched or protected. But every time he tries to show what he can do, it feels like someone is telling him to slow down, step back, or stay safe. And nothing makes someone like Dmac feel smaller than being treated like a kid in a world built for killers and bosses. You can almost feel him thinking that the only way to be taken seriously is to take action, real, dangerous action. Meanwhile, King Kilo is rising fast, and his name is starting to spread like wildfire. He isn't just another dealer trying to claim a block. He's bold, he's ruthless, and he's smart enough to make moves that catch even Tommy off guard. His crew is growing, his influence is reaching new areas, and his presence is meant to be a message. Kilo isn't playing the game, he's trying to take it over. Every step he takes pushes the balance of power further out of control, and everyone on the streets can feel it. He has no fear, no hesitation, and no reason to slow down. The episode builds the tension between these two rising forces, Dmac driven by emotion, Kilo driven by ambition. And in the center of it all is Tommy, trying to control something that is getting bigger and messier every second. He senses the danger, but even he can't predict what's coming. He tries to focus on expanding his empire while keeping the peace within his own crew, but the cracks are showing. Every decision he makes feels like it could save lives or destroy them. As all of this unfolds, the pressure around Dmac grows heavier. He listens, watches, and absorbs every moment of disrespect, every threat, and every reminder of the violence that surrounds him. He sees Kilo gaining power, sees people whispering his name, and feels the fear spreading in places where Tommy once had control. For Dmac, this becomes more than a street problem, it becomes a challenge, a symbol of everything he thinks he needs to overcome to prove himself. And that's where this episode plants its seed. A seed that will grow into a moment no one can take back. Because episode 5 isn't just building a plot, it's building a fuse. A fuse that Dmac is getting ready to light. Even if he doesn't fully understand the explosion waiting at the end of it, the streets feel different around Tommy in this episode, like the city is shifting beneath his feet. Every deal, every handshake, every promise suddenly carries twice the risk. Tommy has always worked with chaos, but this time the chaos feels personal, like it's circling around him and tightening every minute. He's trying to grow his empire, expand into new corners, and keep the money flowing, but every move he makes meets a new wall. Old alliances start cracking, rivals get bold, and the sense that something big is coming hangs over every scene like a dark cloud. Tommy walks into every room with the same confidence he's always had, but even he can feel the pressure building. His crew isn't as steady as it should be. Loyalties have become shaky, trust is wearing thin, and everyone seems to be waiting for someone else to take the first shot. Tommy tries to keep everyone in line, to remind them why they follow him, but it's not easy when the city keeps throwing threats from every direction. The smart players are changing their strategies. The reckless ones are getting even more dangerous. And the people in the middle are picking sides faster than ever. In the middle of all this tension, Tommy is also dealing with the growing problem of Dmac. He cares about him maybe more than he's willing to admit, but caring in this world is tricky. Tommy wants Dmac safe, protected, and out of trouble. But Dmac isn't a kid anymore. He's restless, angry, and tired of being told he needs to wait or be patient. Tommy sees that emotion building, sees the fire in his eyes, but he keeps pushing him back instead of pulling him closer. It's a mistake he doesn't realize he's making, not until it's too late. Tommy tries to focus on the bigger picture, the war for control. King Kilo is rising, and Tommy knows it. He watches Kilo's moves carefully, knowing each one is a bold message. Kilo wants territory, respect, and power, and he's willing to knock down anyone who stands in his way. Tommy understands ambition. He respects it even. But he also knows how dangerous it is when ambition doesn't come with fear. And King Kilo doesn't fear a damn thing. That's what makes him a problem no one can ignore. Every interaction Tommy has in this episode reveals how much pressure he's under. Meetings turn tense. Plans fall apart. People hesitate. And Tommy tries to control it all, as if tightening his grip will stop the cracks from widening. But what he doesn't see, what he can't see, is the shift happening right beside him. The shift inside Dmac, the young man he's trying to protect, is slowly heading toward a decision that will put everything Tommy is fighting for at risk. Tommy never expected the streets to quiet down for him, but he also didn't expect them to become this unstable this fast. The city he's trying to rule keeps pushing back, sending warnings through the violence, through the whispers, and through the actions of men like King Kilo. Every small fire Tommy tries to put out creates two more somewhere else. And every time he turns his back to handle one crisis, another one opens right behind him. The tension in Chicago during this episode doesn't just shape the world around Tommy, it shapes Tommy himself. It forces him to look at everyone around him differently. Especially Dmac. He starts to notice the shift, starts to realize the danger. But by the time that awareness hits him fully, the fire inside Dmac is already burning too hot to control. And in a city where timing is everything, Tommy's understanding comes a little too late. Because while Tommy is fighting the war outside, the real threat is already growing inside his own circle. And the spark that will ignite the deadliest moment of the season is getting closer and closer. King Kilo moves through this episode like a storm that nobody saw coming, but everybody feels once he's there. He isn't loud, he isn't wild, and he doesn't make empty threats. His power comes from silence, confidence, and the way people's eyes change the moment he enters a room. Kilo doesn't have to announce himself, the streets do it for him. Whispers spread fast. His name travels quicker than product. And his reputation grows with every step he takes. In episode 5, he becomes more than a rival. He becomes a shadow stretching over Chicago, darkening everything Tommy has built. Kilo's rise isn't random. Every move he makes is calculated. He starts by taking over small corners, the places most crews ignore because they don't look valuable. But Kilo doesn't care about looks, he cares about strategy. He plants himself in spots that connect bigger operations, turning dead zones into prime territory. His men stand firm, disciplined, and loyal, which tells you everything you need to know. Kilo doesn't just recruit, he molds. He builds his crew into soldiers who follow without question, ready to move at the slightest nod from him. And that kind of loyalty is dangerous, especially when the man leading them has no fear. As the episode unfolds, Kilo's influence grows louder. He sends messages not with words, but with actions. A stolen shipment here, a disrupted meeting there, a sudden appearance of his crew where they're not supposed to be. Each move chips away at Tommy's control. Each step tightens the pressure. Kilo isn't trying to share power, he's trying to take it all. And he wants everyone in Chicago to know that Tommy isn't the only name worth fearing. He wants the city to look at him and see someone unstoppable. But the real power of King Kilo isn't in the violence he commands, it's in the confidence he carries. He talks to people like he already owns the future. He jokes about danger as if it's entertainment. He walks into risky situations without blinking, like he's daring the world to try him. That level of courage or arrogance, depending on how you see it, makes him a different kind of threat. Not just physical, but psychological. People start doubting Tommy. They start wondering if Kilo is the one who will take over next. Doubt spreads faster than bullets, and Kilo knows how to use it. What makes this section of the episode so important is how clearly it shows the contrast between Kilo and Dmac. Kilo is in control, calm, and calculating. Dmac is emotional, boiling, and hungry to prove himself. Kilo's rise becomes the mirror that reflects Dmac's frustrations back at him. The more Kilo grows, the smaller Dmac feels. And the more dangerous Tommy's world becomes, the more Dmac feels the need to step into it, to show he belongs. The way Kilo operates also puts pressure on Tommy's crew in ways they're not ready to handle. People start questioning decisions. Fear mixes with anger. Some crew members wonder if they should switch sides before things get worse. The uncertainty spreads through the organization like a quiet sickness. And the more people doubt Tommy, the more powerful Kilo becomes. That's his true weapon, not guns, not threats, but influence. By the time this portion of the episode reaches its peak, Kilo has turned himself into a force that can't be ignored. He stands tall, confident, almost untouchable. He believes he's about to take the top spot in the city, and he acts like nothing can stop him. What he doesn't realize, what nobody realizes yet, is that the threat coming for him isn't Tommy, isn't another rival crew, and isn't the police. It's a young man burning with pride, pain, and anger. A young man who thinks the only way to make his name echo on the streets is to take down a giant. Dmac spends this entire episode walking around with a storm inside him. The kind that builds quietly but hits hard when it finally breaks. From the outside, he looks calm enough, focused, alert, moving through the city like he's just handling business. But inside, his thoughts feel heavy, loud, and impossible to shut down. Every conversation he overhears, every look someone gives him, every warning Tommy throws his way, all of it piles on top of each other until it becomes too much to carry. This episode shows the real battle Dmac is fighting, and it's not the kind that happens in the streets. It's happening in his chest, his mind, his pride. He's caught between two versions of himself, the one Tommy wants him to be and the one he thinks he needs to become. Tommy wants him to stay safe, stay smart, stay alive. But Dmac feels like he's stuck in a cage made of good intentions. Every time Tommy tries to protect him, Dmac hears something different. He hears that he isn't ready, that he isn't strong enough, that he doesn't belong in the world he's grown up watching. And for someone who's trying to find his place, those feelings hit deeper than most people realize. They bruise the ego, they shake the confidence, and they build frustration that doesn't fade. At the same time, Chicago itself is pushing him in the opposite direction. The noise of the streets, the danger, the whispered names, the stories of men like King Kilo gets inside his head. He starts to feel like the world respects power more than anything else. That people only listen when you do something bold. That the only way to be seen is to make yourself impossible to ignore. These thoughts grow in him slowly, like a seed planted by circumstance, watered by every moment he feels overlooked or underestimated. What makes Dmac's conflict even more intense is the fear he doesn't talk about. Deep down, he's scared of being nothing, scared of fading into the background, scared of surviving without ever becoming someone the streets remember. And that fear mixes with pride until it becomes something dangerous. He wants to be respected. He wants to earn his place. He wants to show that he's not just a kid protected by Tommy, he's a man who can stand on his own. The episode shows moments where Dmac watches Kilo's rise from a distance, and those moments hit him hard. He sees Kilo building an empire. He sees men twice his age following Kilo without question. He sees power in motion. And something inside him whispers that if a man like Kilo can stand tall without fear, then maybe Dmac can too. The difference is that Kilo's power is built on strategy, experience, and a long history of dangerous choices. Dmac's hunger is built on emotion. And emotion can push someone to make decisions they're not ready for. With every scene, the pressure on Dmac grows thicker. The frustration of being pushed aside. The anger of seeing someone else dominate the streets. The desire to make his name known. The fear of being forgotten. All these feelings twist together until they become the fuel for one single, reckless belief that one bold move can change everything. That one moment of action can flip his future from uncertain to unstoppable. And that belief becomes the spark that will lead him straight into the most dangerous decision of his life. By the time we reach the end of this section, Dmac isn't thinking clearly anymore. His emotions have taken control. His need to prove himself has become louder than Tommy's warnings, louder than common sense, louder than fear. And the streets, which once felt like a world he needed to survive, now feel like a stage waiting for him to make his move. Dmac's internal conflict doesn't just build tension, it builds destiny. The kind you can't unmake once you step into it. And in episode 5, that destiny is already pulling him toward the moment that will change Chicago forever. Everything in episode 5 starts tightening around Dmac like a knot, slowly being pulled from every side. It's the kind of tension that doesn't explode right away, it simmers, collects, grows heavier with every passing minute. The streets feel louder, the shadows feel sharper, and every small event feels like a warning of something bigger on the way. This section of the episode becomes the turning point where all the emotions inside Dmac begin to twist into something dangerous. Something he can't walk back from once he steps into it. It begins with the small things, moments that seem ordinary but leave a mark. A disrespectful look from someone on the block. A whispered comment about Tommy losing control. A story about King Kilo hitting another spot without resistance. All these tiny sparks hit Dmac in a place already filled with fuel. And because he's been holding so much inside, each spark feels personal. He starts thinking less about staying safe and more about proving something. Every piece of news about Kilo feels like a challenge meant for him. Every rumor feels like a push toward action. Things escalate when Dmac overhears conversations that weren't meant for him. Words about Kilo taking over. Words about how Tommy's crew is slipping. Words about how the new generation needs to step up or be swept aside. These words cling to him, wrapping around his mind until he can't shake them off. Instead of seeing them as warnings, he sees them as invitations. The more he listens, the more it feels like the city is daring him to do something bold, to show he's not afraid, to show he belongs in the game as much as anyone else. And then comes the moment that truly shifts everything. Dmac sees King Kilo's people moving through a spot they shouldn't be. The confidence they carry, the arrogance in their stride, the way they act like the streets already belong to them, it hits Dmac in the worst way. He watches them, feeling anger rise through him like heat. He doesn't say anything, but his silence is heavier than words. In that moment, something inside him changes. The pressure inside him stops being frustration and turns into intention. He doesn't want to just react to the streets anymore, he wants to shape them. The episode makes it clear that this is the point of no return for Dmac. His mind becomes loud and restless. He plays out scenarios in his head, imagining what would happen if he stepped up, if he confronted Kilo, if he changed the balance of power with his own hands. He starts believing that action is the only thing people respect. That hesitation is weakness. That if he waits any longer, the city will swallow him whole and forget his name. At the same time, Tommy is too distracted to notice this shift. He's dealing with threats from every angle, trying to keep the business steady, trying to keep alliances alive. He doesn't see how deeply Dmac is drifting away. He doesn't catch the signs, the short answers, the distant expressions. The way Dmac's eyes linger a little too long on every mention of Kilo. Tommy thinks he's keeping the peace. But what he doesn't know is that the real danger is growing right beside him. As the tension escalates, Dmac starts pushing away the voice in his head that tells him to slow down. The voice that sounds like Tommy, the voice that sounds like reason. He replaces it with a new voice, one driven by pride, fear, anger, and the need to leave a mark. The episode shows him walking through the city with a different energy. His shoulders firmer, his jaw tighter. His steps heavier. He isn't looking over his shoulder anymore. He's looking ahead into the trouble he's about to create. The streets react to him too. People notice the shift. Some stay quiet. Some give him space. Some look at him like they already know what's coming. Chicago has seen this story before. A young man pushed too far, burning too hot, reaching for something he doesn't fully understand. And like every time before, the city stays silent, waiting for the moment everything breaks open. By the end of this section, Dmac isn't just angry, he's ready. Ready for confrontation. Ready for risk. Ready to make the move he thinks will change everything. The tension that once surrounded him is now coming from him. He's no longer being pulled by the streets, he's stepping into them with a plan forming in his mind, a plan that leads straight to King Kilo. And once that decision settles in his chest, there's no turning back. Not for Dmac, not for Tommy, not for Chicago.